Okay, so let's talk about a couple more tools today, and I know I mentioned last time I would be talking about the keyboard marker tuner and duration tool, but I think it makes more sense to swap the micro tuner with the DLS synth first. So let's start with this one. This is your Mac's internal synth, and here you can select the sounds, right? And if you have ever owned one of those cheap kind of plasticky beginner keyboards, right? You might be familiar with these sounds right here. These are kind of the standard 128 general MIDI sounds. You get the synths, the pianos, and all of that. And towards the end, I think we even have those infamous kind of sound effects. There we go, the thunder, wind, etc. And here you have your 16 channels. And conveniently, you can assign a different sound to each channel. So right now, channel 1 is selected. So if I click on laser gun, boom, now we have laser gun on channel 1, and so on. Now, channel 10, as you can see, is reserved for the drum sounds. Makes perfect sense. That's usually the case. That's kind of the MIDI standard. If you have some other MIDI banks, you can open those as well, which I guess is a nice little addition here. Don't worry, we're going to play a couple of these later when we have a look at the keyboard tool. But for now, let's look at the rest of the pane here. We have a max CPU menu if you want to limit kind of the resources that are assigned to this synth. You can even limit the quality. I mean, we're talking pretty basic MIDI files here, so you're probably never going to need to worry about that. But, you know, the option is there for you if you are on a particularly old machine. All pretty standard features so far. I think the reverb is actually a nice little touch. You even have different algorithms here to choose from, and you have a separate slider. You can regulate the volume of the wet signal as well as the dry signal here. So that's kind of the DLS synth. Let me grab myself a keyboard tool here and slap it before the synth. So now we can actually use it to trigger those sounds. So first of all, as you can see, if I just rest my cursor here, it says click 1 to start playing, one of the keys. And if I scroll on my trackpad here, as you can see, we get access to all 128 keys, which is pretty neat. You can just click on one. And as you can see, our input channel here is set to 1. And the synth has the laser gun effect on 1. If I switch this back to the standard piano, now we get piano sound. Another cool thing is, as you can see, whenever I click on a key, it becomes a little darker, so you always know what you're clicking on. But if you want to accentuate that highlight effect even more, you can check the highlight box, and now the white keys are going to become blue, and the black keys are going to become yellow, which is pretty neat. You can, of course, set the velocity. Your mouse clicks or trackpad clicks are not going to be velocity sensitive, so it's a fixed velocity, but at least you get to set it. So let's set this to maybe 64 to make it a little softer, right? Or we could go 127 all the way. You can also set the off velocity for the note off message. And actually, let's have a look at that using the A-list tool. This one has its own video up here, but basically it monitors whatever you're doing. So if we click a note here, the A-list tool is telling us we have a note on message, a note off message. They are both on channel 1, which makes sense, right? We set our keyboard to channel 1. This is the type of MIDI message, which depends on the note number, which is 36. Which would be like C3, I think. And then we have the velocity, which is 127 for the note on message, of course. And as you can see, it's 0 for the note off message. So everything as it should be. We have an output channel feature here as well, which at the moment is a little buggy. I have already contacted the developer, and as always, he replied very swiftly. He's on it, and maybe in a future updated version, this little bug is going to be fixed. So for now, he recommends just leaving this set to 116, which is every possible channel. And so there is one last parameter we have to look at, which is the octave function, which I found a little confusing at first because I thought, hey, I already have all possible notes. So why would I need an extra octave function? And the reason is that you might have guessed that playing notes with your mouse is a little tricky. Right? It's very hard to hit the right keys, and even if you do, you are limited to just playing one note at a time. You cannot play chords. You could if you had access to a keyboard, like your Mac's keyboard. That's right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of keys, all the letters and the numbers as well. And so the first row here is going to be your white keys. The second one is going to be your black keys. Very low octave, so maybe let's set this to something more usable. Then we have our black keys. And actually we have more than one octave here, because the highest note we can play is actually an E. And then you rinse and repeat for this row of keys right here, which is going to be one octave higher than the one down here. Same with the black keys. And actually you get all the way up to a G. So really you have 2.5 octaves, which, like, my guitar has 2.5 octaves, right? It's quite usable. If you are a GarageBand or Logic Pro user, you might be familiar with their own proprietary MIDI, virtual MIDI keyboard. That one only gives you access to a little more than 1 octave. Now, it's cool that you can use the number keys for things like pitch bend and modulation, and the lower row here you can use to switch octave on the fly or change the velocity level. I think this is a very good compromise. You can still change the velocity via your mouse, the octave range as well, but in return for that you get 2+ octaves to play with, which I think is really, really neat. Right, so you've heard some of the sounds here, you've heard the reverb as well. Let's talk about the duration tool. Very, very easy one. As you can see, there's only one parameter, and this is going to add a certain amount of time between the moment you let go of your key and the actual moment when that note off message is sent. So it's set in milliseconds, so if I set this to, say, 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second, here's what happens. Let me just quickly click on my mouse. But as you can see, that note off message took a little while for it to be sent, so the note was lagging for about 1 second. One last thing about this I noticed is that if you have a look at the different tools you have and then you go back to the keyboard does not know that it should interpret your keystrokes as actual note on messages. So first you need to click on the keyboard, and now your keystrokes are going to be interpreted as note on messages. If you don't do that, so let me reset this. If I now try to press keys immediately, this happens. It displays the synth pane even though we are on the keyboard tool. So you don't want to do that. So remember to click on any key first, and then you can use the keys with your, well, keys for lack of a better term. Right, so that was it. Another 3 tools for you. Next time we're gonna check out the microtuner tool. And yeah, hope to see you in the next video. Take care.